Morning, Chair.
Morning, Burger. I need to make sure that my screen is fine. Yes.
Much
Yeah,
clear.
yes.
I see your cheese scope is also shining.
Yeah, it's fresh in this early in the morning, so everything must shine.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm just trying to check what you have sent me. It's only the DJ that is apologizing, is that?
The what? Yeah,
There
no,
is
the
a
software is the minister.
okay.
Yes.
Let me just check. It means I've only seen, I've only seen one. Also, it's the DG and the minister. I suspect they attended the cabinet meeting.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. Let's see if the DM will log in. But that's far there is none.
Signature?
Okay, that's far there is none from the DM.
No, there's none from the DM.
Okay. All right. That's okay. That's fine. Let me just check Honorable Landsman. See how far is he.
Gotcha.
Recording in progress.
Chairperson,
Yes, Inspector?
maybe before we start, I would like to check with the departments who's, who must I grant in presenting rights.
Uh, thank you, Chairperson. I think the presenting rights should be granted to myself and Ms. Lekaupi, who will be sharing on my behalf. Ms. Lekaupi.
Okay, thank you.
Morning, Ambassador and members.
Morning, Chair.
How's it? What's going?
So far, so good, Chair. How are you?
Okay. No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
Mm.
Yes, we missed you in the chamber yesterday.
Yeah,
But you were on the platform.
I was on the platform.
Morning, Chair.
What
The problem is that the Department of Transport has not provided more flights between East London and Cape Town. So if you miss the one on Monday, then because of committee meetings, then you're unable to take any flight between Tuesday and Friday.
Yes. You're 100% correct. You are forced to come on Monday so that at least when committee starts, you're fine.
Yeah.
I think yeah.
Because on Monday I had an appointment with the doctor, but by the time then I finished, so the one flight that we have from East London was already gone.
Okay, sure. I think we can start now.
All right.
Good morning, honorable members. The DM and his delegation, the committee staff, the communication team from Parliament, and also the PMG and members of the public. Let me take this opportunity to formally open this meeting by extending a word of welcome to all of you. Today, we are going to receive the briefing on the annual report from the Department of Transport, which is quite important given the fact that this is the remaining 2 months of this committee, and amongst the oversight work that it did, it was over the medium-term strategic framework, which encapsulates also the strat plan 2019 to 2024 of the department, and also the respective APPs. And therefore, it is important that we just get a sense in terms of where we are. Of course, we are mindful of the progress that the department might have registered in terms of the key performance areas that were part of their work, given the fact that already they've processed the issues of first quarter and third quarter reports. But be that as it may, it is important that just to reiterate the fact that because of the nature of the work that we have, the cluster, the number of departments that we are overseeing, it becomes difficult to deal with all the quarterly reports. So therefore, the expectation is that at least where there is progress in terms of targets that might have been missed, let's just invite the department to make a reflection on that. Having said that, honorable members, let me then give over to the committee secretary to present the apologies for today. Committee secretary.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, the apologies that we have received so far, we have received the apology of the Minister and also the apology from Honorable Tafin.
Okay. And then the DG also.
the DGs in the platform, Chairperson.
Okay. All right. I thought the correspondence that you forwarded to me says that the DG, due to other commitments, will be held up and that the delegation will be led by the CFO. Is that not the one? Or maybe there's a mix up. All right, that's fine. Having said that, let's note those apologies, honorable members, and without any waste of time, then
Chair,
yes.
apologies, Chair, through you.
Yes.
I am Magoto Matala. I tried to raise my hand, but I pressed a wrong icon there. I wanted to say that there is a letter that the DG have signed and sent to the secretary. Maybe he did not receive it yet, but it was indicating as the chair is saying, Chair. I just wanted to be on record on that. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, CFO. Correctly so, as you have indicated, it was forwarded to me by the committee secretary. Having said that, members, again, let's note those apologies and then give over to the Deputy Minister, Mangu, to give us the opening remarks. Over to you, DM.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, all the committee members and to our dear fellow South Africans. Thank you very much, Chair, for the opportunity to appear before this committee at this very, very important time. Chair, we are appearing to present our annual report for the 2022-2023 financial year. And Chair, I would humbly request that I ask you to directly go to the presentation, which will be led by Mr. Busa Ramanzi, and the financial component will be presented by the CFO, who has just made that intervention. And then if you would then allow me after their presentation before you engage to make a few comments. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, dear, for that directive. Having said that, let's then, without any waste of time, give over to Mr. Ramanzi to lead the presentation and the CFO. Over to you, Mr. Ramanzi.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. The presentation, I'll ask Ms. Lekhau to share the presentation. It's the presentation of the annual report of the Department of Transport for the period 2022-23. Chair, I'll ask the Chair if, with your indulgence, if I can just switch off my camera so that I can protect the bandwidth, if you allow, Chair.
Yeah, the permission granted, Ramanzi. Sure.
Thank you, Chair. If you just go straight to the slide number 2, the slideshow, Petunia. We, as stated, Chair, we will cover the summary of our performance in terms of the predetermined objectives. We'll show just a bit of comparative analysis here and there for the committee to just see the type of improvements and where we have lagged behind. We'll showcase the key highlights per program, including the issues where we needed to have corrective measures, and we've included a bit of performance of conditional grants, mainly because they pertain to work that is done at provinces with the PTOG and also the PRNG, and just the standard of the annual report that talks to the governance side and also the human resource overview with regards to our stats in that space. and just a summary of other overview of financial information that will be covered by the CFO. If you go to the next slide very quickly, Petunia, move to slide number 5. Chair, this is the summary of the indicators that we track also on a quarterly basis, but for the financial year under review, we met 77 of our targets. Obviously, 23 were missed. Some of the issues were related to the audit of predetermined objectives that required us to downscale our performance based on the issues that didn't find favor with the auditors. We will touch a bit on those. In terms of persons with disabilities, at the end of March 2023, we were sitting at 2.1%. Our vacancy rate was sitting at 23.62%, and the turnover rate of the department for the year under review was at 6.96, with the representation of women in SMS sitting at 41.6 against a target of 50%. If you go to the next slide. Chair, this is just showing our quarters, the targeting per quarter of the financial year 2023. You'll see that our targets we had more targets in the second quarter, and also at the end of the financial year, due to reporting that sometimes we scheduled to biannual, but overall the targets that were assessed for the year under review will be showcased in the next slide. Move to the next slide very quickly, Petunia. Chair, go to the next slide, slide 8. If you look at this slide 8, Chairperson, this is the amount of targets that we had for the financial year, which is 70. Out of that 70, we met 54%, which is 77%. We've met 54 of the 70 targets, which is 77% of performance, and 16 of the 70 were not met. 5 of those were in administration, 1 in integrated transport planning, 3 in rail transport, 1 in road transport, 1 in civil aviation, 2 in maritime, and 3 in public transport. We will showcase, Chair, as we go through the presentation, the areas that we then subjected for corrective measures. If you go to slide number 9, move quicker. Here we're just showcasing performance through the MTSF, how we've been performing since 2019-20. You will see that our overall performance for the year under review that we are presenting is a bit low if compared to the previous 3 years, mainly on the audit of predetermined objectives that we will highlight as we go through. Move to the next slide, Petunia. And the next slide. Chair, we're just making here, we're going to capture performance per program just to show the highlights in terms of the stakeholder plan. These are the type of stakeholders that we engaged on in the year under review, and the annual status report was then developed as was targeted. And amongst the stakeholders, we had the taxi industry in Daba that was held in 15 March 2023. The SASA conference in February 2023, and also the aviation industry engagement on the 10th of March. If you go to the next slide. These are some of the stakeholders that we engaged, and the data are also highlighted. If I move quicker to the next slide. In terms of the governance issues, we needed to produce a strat plan. A progress report on the implementation of the strat plan was developed as was targeted, and also the annual performance plan for 23-24 was approved and tabled in Parliament as per the prescripts, and the annual report of the Department of Transport for 21-22. Which was targeted in the APP, was then submitted for tabling as stated. If you go to the next slide. I'll spend a bit of time on this one, Chair, because it's very important. It's matters that we always interact with Parliament on. In terms of the vacancies, how we are addressing the vacancy rate for the year under review, which is 22-23. A total of 84 vacant positions were filled during the period under review. 33 of the 84 were through internal promotions, and 44 were new appointments, with 7 lateral transfers. 84 is the total figure. And as at March 2023, the vacancy rate stood at 23.62. And if we disregard the unfunded positions, the vacancy rate then dropped to 18.39. The process that we are undertaking in the department is to work with the DPSA to make sure that we remove the unfunded positions in the establishment until such time that these unfunded positions have been moved out of the establishment. We are bound to report the vacancy rate based on the total establishment, including the unfunded positions. The turnover rate as at March 23 set at 6.96, Chair, which is 51 of the 733 employees on our establishment. If you go back to that slide, who left the department either through retirement, through resignation, some of them who are deceased, and some with contracts that are expiring, and that breakdown is covered in the annual report proper. Next slide. Chair, we want to showcase the number of positions that were filled since 2019, just to give comfort to Parliament that we are trying our best to make sure that we fill positions. In 2019-20, 55 positions were filled. In 21-22, we filled 28. In 21-22, we filled 61. And 22-23 was the highest in the MTSF at 84. And the total positions that we filled since the start of the MTSF is 228. And our vacancy rate is not decreasing at the level at which we should be seeing, mainly due to internal promotions that are creating vacancies at lower levels once we promote. In other cases, the turnover rate of the department, which also has impacted on the vacancy rate. We go to the next slide. In terms of the ethics committees established and operationalized, as at the end of the financial year, the operations of the departmental ethics committee were monitored. Ethics committees officers were appointed, and the terms of reference were approved during the period under review. In the next slide, quickly. In terms of the training space and also the bursaries issued, 46% of employees were trained. A total of 303 officials out of the establishment were trained in this regard, and 483 training interventions were conducted. In terms of bursaries, as at the end of the financial year, we had 209 bursaries managed by the DOT. Next slide. A total of 38 interns were placed across various branches and in municipalities, and some of them were terminated due to contract expiry. Chair. And when we come and give the progress in the new financial year, you'll see those that were appointed on 2-year contracts and where we are now in terms of the internship program. Next slide. To address the audit findings, Chair, we have in the progress report that was developed, and for the year under review, we will showcase in terms of our Q1 reporting how we fared. But safe to say, over 80% of those that we had targeted to address were addressed. And those that were not yet completed were receiving adequate attention in terms of the audit that came in 2021-22, Chair. If you go to the next slide. I'll leave the slides that talk to unauthorized expenditure, fruitless expenditure, and and irregular expenditure, because the CFO will touch on them on the expenditure report. If you go to slide 26, just to highlight one of the major issues that we had an issue on slide 20. Just go down to slide 26. Those are the areas where we did not meet the target. Slide 26. Thank you. Chair, there is a target, slide 26. There is a target that we have, slide 26, Petunia. There is a target that we have set ourselves across government of paying service providers within 30 days. We just wanted to showcase that for the period under review, for the year under review, out of 11,716 supplier payments, 10,923 were made within 30 days, meaning that we had about 793 payments that missed the 30-day compliance time frame, which actually record to an underperformance of 7% on the indicator. We have assessed our internal control, and we are in the process of improving the internal controls. And where we are now, we think that this particular picture will improve in this new financial year, and also improve in the coming financial year, so that we reach 100% compliance on the 30-day payment principles. If you go to the other slides are just talking to the same principles, just showcasing where we have deviated and where we are going to correct. Let's go to the next program, Petunia, so that we move quicker. Leave it to slide 29. Let's just talk to slide 29 very quickly, so that we can showcase how the picture looked. You will see, Chair, that in 1920, we were performing at, in terms of the payment within 30 days, we were performing at 89%. For 2020, 21, and 21-22, we were performing at 97%, and we went down again to 93% in 22-23, and we will be aiming to address all the issues in terms of the improved internal controls, so that we can go to 100%, Chair. So we're just showing a comparative analysis of how we've been paying within 30 days since the start of the MTSF. If you can go to the next program. If you go to the next program, the next slide. On some of the slides, Chair, in terms of what we have targeted is to meet the targets that are in the MTSF. We had a under macro sector planning annual status report for one plans in terms of the district development plan that were developed for Kinga, Jejwayo, and Umgungundlovu district municipalities as developed. And in terms of the same DDM, we contribute in the development and the implementation of one plans, particularly with regard to integrated transport plans across the 50 district municipalities in the country. With that regard, an annual status report was also developed as was targeted. The next slide. The regulation for autonomous vehicle technology, during the period under review, Chair, we conducted a legislative gap analysis, and we drafted a report so that we can improve the regulatory space for autonomous vehicle technology as it proliferates across the country. And in terms of electric vehicles regulation, the framework for this regulation was developed as targeted. Part of this is to manage the risk, so that as the technology gain momentum in the country, we are not found wanting in the same way that we were found wanting when the e-hailing technology reached the country. So we are moving at speed on this one, Chair. The next slide. With regards to the economic regulation of transport bill, as at the end of the 22-23 financial year, the ARTB had been published for public consultations through the NCOP, and the select committee had been briefed at the time, and the status that you see on the slide is at March 2023, Chair, so that we cover our annual report process. But the process has since evolved, and it's nearing completion. Next slide. The flood migration plan was developed at the end of the financial year to make sure that we move together with the partners, including DPE and Transnet. We are able to meet the MTSF target of moving rail-friendly cargo from road to rail. The target that was put in the MTSF was 10%, is the target that is not reachable within the MTSF due to the reasons being the migration plan that was not in place at the time, and also the state of our rail infrastructure to move the cargo that's supposed to be moved on rail. The next slide. Where we had not met our target, the regional integration strategy was not submitted to cabinet as was targeted, chair. But as at the time of reporting, the CS process had been undertaken, and the applicable certificate was issued by the DPME, and the strategy had not served at the respective clusters, the ICT cluster, and as such, we missed this target of making sure that there was submission to cabinet. As stated earlier, Chair, some of the information has already been passed by events. At the moment, we have moved towards submission to cabinet in the current financial year, which will be reported obviously as at the end of this financial year. The next slide. Rail transport share. The annual status report on the railway safety bill in terms of its progression in Parliament was developed, and the report also indicated a number of issues, and that issues raised in 8 provinces were issues around fencing, the bridges, the signage, the security, theft and vandalism, accessibility by the elderly people, persons with disabilities, children, and a demand for rail transport. And as at the time of reporting, the public hearings for the Western Cape were scheduled to resume in April 2023. The next slide. In terms of the rolling stock fleet renewal program, 57 new train sets were provisionally accepted for the 22-23 financial year. And in terms of the oversight on the PRASA capital projects, the analysis report was developed, and it's available for scrutinization as and when requested. This is the work that the department does, run oversight on the PRASA capital projects on a year-to-year basis. The next slide. Where we have not met our target is the National Rail Bill. It was not approved for submission to cabinet during the period at the end of the 2022-23 financial year. And however, the inputs from the state law advisors were incorporated into the draft bill. Most of the delay at the time was due to vetting process by the state law advisor, and the engagement happened, and we're at the stage where the National Rail Bill is progressing towards cabinet. The next slide. Next slide quickly, Petunia. The private sector participation framework, and also the next slide on the high-speed rail framework. These were not submitted to cabinet, but there were just slight issues that were being corrected in the space to make sure that we reach our targets. If you can go to the next slide. If you go to the next slide, the road transport, very quickly, let's move quicker. The annual report on the road safety strategy was developed. The overall target is to ensure that we decrease road fatalities by 25% in the MTSF as targeted. This is continuing with the annual monitoring report, and we've been seeing that information has been coming through with regard to the indicators that are being tracked in this space. The General Laws Amendment Bill was developed as targeted as at the end of the financial year. However, we then got a legal opinion that some of the bills were in different sections of the Constitution, and as such, the amendment bills needed to be separated. And as such, this is the work that is happening in this current financial year. It will be reported through reports in the current financial year. The next slide. Next slide, very quickly. The National Road Traffic Amendment Bill in terms of progression in Parliament. This is it was presented to the Select Committee, and then at the time of reporting, it was undertaking consultations at the provincial legislatures. Next slide. Expansion and maintenance of national roads, a cumulative quarter four monitoring report on the Sandal Road Maintenance Program developed. It showcases that at the time, Sandal was exposing 23,559 kilometers of their national network onto routine maintenance. And there are other issues that emanated and that needed to be discussed with Sandal, and they will be reported as we come through to Parliament in the new financial year. Next slide. This is the provincial, the provincial space with their PRMG. Obviously, every year with the supplementary grant that we issue to provinces, that we target for maintenance of 5% of the provincial network, with the proviso that the additional funding will come through the provincial budgeting in their own provinces. Next slide. Through their equitable share. The jobs created through the Sandal Maintenance Program, a total of 11,009 jobs were created for the year under review. And with regard to PRMG, the numbers are in the annual report proper, and we will just reflect on them as we go into the presentation. Go through the next slide. We also tracking rehabilitation that we are making on flood damaged infrastructure, and also the road inventory data monitoring through the RAMs, and those reports are also available for scrutinization. The next slide. Where we have not met our target share, the road infrastructure funding policy was supposed to have been submitted to Cabinet. It was not submitted as at the time of reporting, due to the fact that the Treasury, the Minister of Finance through Treasury, requested that they be given an opportunity to provide inputs onto the proposed policy prior to submission to Cabinet. The engagement were then prioritized with the National Treasury, and as we come in the new financial year, we'll just give the feedback in terms of how far we've gone with the road infrastructure funding policy. The next slide. Next slide, civil aviation. If we move quicker, Petunia, in terms of representation of South Africa at ICAO, the process was facilitated during the period under review, and the report on the outcome of South Africa's participation at the ICAO Assembly was developed. In terms of the RPAS regulations, the initial batch of regulations were approved in the previous financial year prior to this one, and the branch, the Department of Transport, in consultations with the Civil Aviation Authority, will continue to work in this space to ensure that the regulatory space for RPAS is adequate, so that we can decrease mainly the incidents and accidents in general aviation, and also the fatalities in that space. Next slide. If we can move quicker, the state of aviation accidents, Chair, we can simply say that the report was developed, and it shows a decrease in incidents and fatalities, mainly due to the implementation of the aviation safety strategy, which gained momentum in the 22-23 financial year. Next slide. The jobs created in the AXA infrastructure program are also reported to us on a quarterly basis, and they are audited from the AXA front, and the AXA annual report will have those figures. From us is the analysis report that we can make available as and when required. If we move to the next slide. Where we have not met our target in civil aviation, Chair, the draft aeronautical and maritime search and rescue bill was supposed to have been submitted to Cabinet for public comments. It wasn't submitted, but during the period under review, the CS was received, and the the certificate was awaited as at the time of this report. You'll remember, Chair, that on this one, the initial process was to repeal the act, but then we got a legal opinion from the State Law Advisor that the magnitude of the repeal was such, of the amendment was such that we repeal the whole act, and the process was started afresh. And this is the report that as at the end of 22-23, that was in line with the repeal process at the time. The next slide. The next slide, maritime transport. If you move quicker, Petunia, in terms of the Maritime Development Fund bill, it was undergoing cabinet processes at the time, and the letter had been sent to Treasury as per the Cabinet Committee recommendation. The merchant shipping bill was undergoing parliamentary process. The notice of intention to introduce the merchant shipping bill to Parliament had been published at the time, and the MAPOL Annexure 6, the parliamentary process as well. The PCOT had finalized deliberations of the bill on the 7th of February 2023 bill, and the bill was to proceed to other relevant parliamentary houses at the time of reporting. The next slide, very quickly. In terms of corporatization, from our side, Chair, most of the steps of corporatizations had been undertaken. Most of the work that needed to happen with regard to finalization of the corporatization in line with the NPA Act hinged on the side of DPE and Transnet. In terms of Operation Pakisa, Ocean's Economy 3-Foot Plan, the annual report on the Ocean Economy Master Plan and the 3-Foot Plan was developed as targeted, and on request it can be made available. If you go to the next slide. This covers the maritime safety incident rate, maritime fatality rate, which are also reported through SAMSA. During the period under review, 8 maritime fatalities were recorded in this regard. Next slide. That is for the year under review. And if you look at the pollution incident rate, also reported through SAMSA, and the annual analysis of maritime pollution incidents were developed, the number of pollution incidents recorded was 15 as at the time of reporting, Chair. The next slide. Next slide. Where we have not met our target, the model for a national shipping company was supposed to have been submitted to cabinet. As at the time, the model had not yet been developed, but there was a draft MOU between the department and the Development Bank of South Africa, and the finalization of the model was scheduled to be prioritized in the current financial year. If you go to the next slide. The next slide, Petunia, very quickly. The maritime security strategy approved by cabinet. The strategy was not approved for submission to cabinet. It was targeted mainly due to prolonged stakeholder engagement. Corrective measures were that the further consultations with the SA Navy would be fast-tracked in the 23-24 financial year, and that the strategy would be prioritized for cabinet submission in this regard. The next slide. The next slide, please, Petunia. In terms of public transport, Chair, the integrated single ticketing system was monitored in Rustenburg and Polokwane in terms of the number of cities operating integrated transport networks. Infrastructure rollout completed in 10 cities per phase, per corridor, and some of the corridors to be launched. Average weekday passenger trips across the operating cities stood at 154,281 as at the time of reporting, which only covered the 8 cities that were operating the IPTNs at the time. The next slide. The BRT specifications, the IPTM norms and standards were approved and published, and in terms of the spatial representation, there was 100% compliance across all the 10 cities that were active in the system. The next slide. If you could move quicker, Petunia. Compliance to the universal design norms and standards to ensure that public transport is accessible to everyone, including persons with disabilities. There was 100% compliance to the universal design and standards across the 10 cities that are active in the program. And in terms of operational hours for BRTs, daily operating hours were between 12 to 19 recorded in the 8 operating cities. But these operating hours can be adjusted higher based on demand. Chair. The next slide. The next slide, please. Yeah, in terms of the TAT amendment bill, it was undergoing parliamentary process. The order of paper and the deliberations at the National Assembly were reported at the time of reporting. And in terms of capacitation of operationalization of the National Public Transport Regulator, a business case and implementation plan to guide the establishment of NPTR had been developed at the time. Appointment of NPTR members had been facilitated. At the time, we had an interim NPTR committee, and appointment of permanent members was initiated during the period under review. The next slide, quicker. If we go quicker, Petunia. If we can go quicker to the next slide, Petunia. The standardization of the provincial regulatory entity engagement between the NPTR and PREs were conducted in February 2023, where in the SOP manual was developed, and the NPTR met in March 2022 to vet the SOP manual, mainly to induce effectiveness in the operations of both the NPTR and the provincial regulatory entities in this. If you can move quicker to the next slide, slide 68, the public transport funding model. As stated, the framework was submitted to the National Treasury for consideration. The objective of this framework is to make sure that we build on sound transportation and economic principle, identifying potential financing sources and mechanisms for public transport, and amongst others, to also guide the process of the subsidy policy in this regard. The next slide. The next slide, quicker. The framework for taxi industry employment, implementation of the 60% ownership of the taxi scrapping entity was developed. We have moved at pace on this one regarding the memorandum of incorporation, and we'll give further feedback in terms of progress made when we come to present the annual report for the 2023-24 financial year after auditing. In terms of the public transport operations, this is the grant that we monitor in provinces. The annual monitoring report was developed as targeted, and the figures are mainly in the slides that will come through. In terms of GBV, the implementation of programs to address GBV in the taxi industry was developed. The next slide. Next slide. District municipalities assisted with IPTNs. On this one, Chair, we identify rural district municipalities to also develop IPTN plans. It's 2 district municipality, and this current financial during the period under review, financial inception reports were developed for 2 district municipalities in this regard. The next slide. Next slide. Where we have not met our target, Chair, the public transport subsidy policy was not approved for submission to Cabinet, mainly due to a need for further stakeholder consultations. And after that, we will then consider and incorporate stakeholder inputs, which were prioritized in the current financial year, and to fast track the submission of the policy to Cabinet in the 23-24 financial year. The next slide. Very quickly. I'm not sure if we've missed Ms. Lechau. Ms. Lechau, Chair, it seems we have missed Ms. Lechau. I'm using a document that is not shareable, Chair. I'm not sure if you've got the presentation, and I can continue until she joins. With your indulgence, Chair. Oh, thank you very much. In terms of the revised taxi recapitalization program, we had set ourselves a projected target of 3,750 old taxi vehicles to scrap for the period under review, Chair. And those that were submitted for scrapping and they were scrapped were 2,576, and which is lower than projected performance. Obviously, Chair, we have always reported that this target is demand driven. We can confirm that 100% of those that were submitted for scrapping were then scrapped. What we are doing to induce the uptake for scrapping, we are in the process of gazetting a cut-off date for scrapping of OTVs, and also to include vehicles for learner transport and cross-border vehicles in the scrapping process, so that we can increase the uptake. And once this cut-off date will be pronounced, and all vehicles that would not have been submitted for scrapping after the cut-off dates, they will not receive the operating licenses, and will then be exposed to law enforcement in this regard. If you go to the next slide. The next slide. Okay. In terms of the bicycles, our target was to distribute 8,000 bicycles. As at the end of the financial year, we had only distributed 2,901 bicycles in 3 provinces, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, and KwaZulu-Natal. Delays in the procurement of bicycles resulted in actual performance of us being lower on our target by 5,099, and these were then scheduled as a backlog to be addressed in the 2023-24 financial year. The next slide, Chair, we will touch on the issues around the consolidated indicators, mainly on the indicators that are performed at our entities, and indicators that are performed at our province. So we receive the reports signed off by accounting officers of these institutions. Chair, I will not touch mainly on these, but just to highlight that in terms of rehabilitation of corridors, as at the time of reporting, there were a number of corridors that were successfully recovered in Gauteng, Pretoria to Pienaarsport, Pretoria to Veld, and Mabopane and Adedi to Johannesburg, Pretoria and Kaalfontein in KwaZulu-Natal, Devon to Cattle Ridge, Devon to Umlazi, Devon to Kelso, and in the Western Cape, and also in the Western, we had those that were successfully recovered. That was at the end of March 2023, Chair. And also, we keep on losing the presentation, Chair. I'm not sure if I should just continue and say that in terms of the production of trains, we had targeted to produce 40 new trains at the end of the financial year. PRASA had, through Gibela, had produced 57 new trains. In terms of the stations,
Mr. Ramati, I think it's a critical presentation, because it is an illustration of the oversight that we are doing over the provinces, yes, and over the state-owned entities that report to you. Let just impress upon the Mr. to just make sure that the slides are back on the board again. Yes, you can continue. Mr. Ramati.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Apologies, Chair. She keeps on being kicked out of the system. I think it's a network on her side. In terms of the trains, the rolling stock fleet renewal program, Chair, our target was 40 new trains, and as at the end of the financial year, 57 new trains had been manufactured and provisionally accepted. And in terms of the station revitalization, through functionality improvements, rebuilding, and commercialization, about 58 stations were reported for revitalization as at the end of the financial year. In the next slide. The rail signaling program mainly in the Central Line, Western Cape. What was reported at the time that the contractor had signed the contract with the Western Cape with the Western Cape resignaling, and the contract was being considered for final sign-off. And one of the things that were reported were the optical transmission network at an evaluation stage. KwaZulu-Natal tender had been supported in the adjudication committee, and restoration of signaling was at the specification stage. In terms of the reduction of incidents and personal safety and theft of vitality in the passenger rail environment, 958 incidents were recorded in the 22-23 financial year. In terms of jobs, through PRASA infrastructure projects, 12,234 jobs were reported for the period under review. So this is secondary information, Chair, that we had in our annual report in terms of the work that is done at provinces and also at entities. Next slide, Petunia, if you move very quickly. In terms of the number of rail trips, 15.62 million passenger rail trips were undertaken as per the definition, Chair. In terms of the reduction, we talked about that, and the job, we talked about that. In terms of the rail security incidents, 1,036 rail security occurrences were reported for the period under review. Obviously, our target was to record less than 2,970 as we decrease these occurrences. Next slide. The next slide. In terms of GBV, obviously, these are the issues that PRASA undertaken to make sure that there is no GBV in the rail industry. A steering committee, which included the internal and external stakeholders, was established to form a multidisciplinary team to drive PRASA's GBVF strategy. Different topics relating to GBV are sent out on a monthly basis, and also there's a dedicated toll-free number to address to address and to report all GBF incidents on PRASA premises that was introduced. So these are the steps that showcase our proactive reaction to GBVF in the rail environment. The next slide. Next slide, Petunia, if we move quicker. In the road space, in terms of reduction of road crashes, our target was 21% reduction. We only recorded 8.9 reduction of 8.9% from 12,887 in 21-22 to 11,739 in the 22-23. The number of road users reached, we will verify this information, but it's also in the RTMC annual report. As stated, in terms of the compliance inspections conducted, 71 dangerous good operators inspected, bringing the total to 354, and 140 DLTCs were inspected, and bringing the total to 392, and 483 vehicle testing stations were also inspected during the period under review. These reports are all secondary, as the primary source as the SABS. If you go to the next slide. The next slide. In terms of speed operations, over 366,000 speed operations were conducted during the period under review. In terms of vehicle weighing, the actual figures in the RTMC annual report will verify it. And in terms of the drunken driving operations, 12,422 drunken driving operations were conducted nationally, and over 16 million vehicles were stopped and checked in line with the target as was done for 22-23. The next slide. In terms of the production of driving licenses against a target of 2 million cards, over 3.4 million driving license cards were produced, mainly to address the backlog that existed. In terms of the turnaround time for issuance of driving license cards. At the time of reporting, it took 19 working days to produce a driving license card against an annual target of 14 days in this regard. If you go to the next slide. This is the PRMG, this is the Central information. The Central always target to expose 100% of its network to routine maintenance. The target when we started the financial year was the Central network that stood at 262. It then increased to 23,559 at the time of reporting. If you include the new roads that were transferred and also that were proclaimed in this regard, and the information there, some of it is in the slides that have passed in terms of the jobs that were created, and we then disaggregated them in terms of youth, women, and persons with disabilities in this regard. So this information will also coincide with the information in the Central annual report, Chair. If you go to the next one. This is the work that is done through the Provincial Department of Transport. That is the PRMG. You'll see that the number of kilometers surfaced, visually assessed, were 34,321, and the gravel roads that were visually assessed were around 91,000, and kilometers upgraded to surface roads. 85 kilometers were upgraded during the period under review from gravel mainly to surface roads, and rehabilitation in terms of meter squares, 1.3 million, and also resealing in terms of meter squares, 1.7 million to that regard. If you go to the next slide. In terms of re-graveling, 2,000 kilometers of roads were re-gravelled. In terms of meter squares of blacktop patching, 614,000 square meters were patched. And in terms of blading, over 113,000 kilometers of gravel roads were bladed during the period under review. And there's a secondary information share as stated. The next slide. The next slide. In terms of the jobs created through PRMG, 65,316 jobs were created. Over 30,000 of those were full-time equivalents. Beneficiaries who are youth, over 26,493, and beneficiaries who are women, 42,954, and beneficiaries who are persons with disabilities, we had 846 beneficiaries within the PRMG program. In terms of the ARPAS regulations, obviously there was a batch of regulations that were submitted for approval, as was insinuated earlier in the presentation. Next slide. The next slide, please. If you go to the number of fatal accidents recorded in scheduled commercial aviation, we'll continue to record 0 fatalities and 0 fatal accident in scheduled commercial aviation. But in terms of the general aviation, we continue to see a number of fatal accidents. There was a 25% reduction in the fatal accidents year to year, and 9 fatal accidents were reported for the period under review. And also there's 100% implementation of the National Strategic Plan to end gender-based violence also in the civil aviation sector. Next slide. Next slide. With regard to maritime, these ones we've talked about. The incident rate in terms of reportable maritime safety rate was sitting at 14.10%. In terms of reportable maritime fatality rate, it's set at 0.93. And in terms of implementation of GBV in the maritime sector, SAMSA hosted a gender-based violence seminar in Cape Town for occupational health, safety, and maritime welfare officers. The seminar was aimed at obtaining assistance in developing and delivering a series of spot checks to ensure mitigation measures to properly implement the in line with the GBVC action plan. We can confirm, Chair, that there have not been any GBV incidents in our water, but we are doing a risk-based strategy to ensure that as and when it is to be reported, then we've got measures to counter that and also to deal with those cases. The next slide. The next slide. The maritime pollution rate, we also gave the number of pollution incidents that happen in our water, but the rate is sitting at 1.86, which is below the 2 maritime pollution rate that we have targeted for the year under review. If you go to the next slide very quickly. The next slide very quickly. These are public transport in terms of the public transport grant. The number of routes subsidized, 107, 824 for the period under review. The number of kilometers subsidized, 33 million kilometers subsidized during the period under review. In terms of trips subsidized, 861, 258 trips were subsidized during the period under review. These are the secondary data that we receive from provinces with regard to the implementation of the public transport operations grant. The next slide. Next slide, very quickly, Petunia. We've talked about this one. It's just expanding on what has happened in the implementation of the National Strategic Plan to End Gender-Based Violence in the public transport space, mainly spearheaded through Santaco. The strategy was adapted into the Santaco Constitution and Code of Conduct. Santaco has partnered with the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities and the Sonke Gender Justice to educate members, mainly Santaco members, on GBV matters. And the Department of Women, Youth and Children has facilitated various courses that women from the industry have attended in KwaZulu-Natal, Mpumalanga and Gauteng. In the next slide. Performance of conditional grants. I'll move very quickly on these ones. Very quickly, let's go to the next slide. Chair, mainly to consider these as read, but if you go to the actual output, you'll see that vehicles subsidized amounted to 6,385, cumulative vehicles subsidized 76,630. The number of routes operated 120,049. Number of trips operated over 5 million. Number of passengers 248 million, and number of kilometers 212 million, and number of employees that benefited from the PTOG 152,455 across the provinces. Most of the provinces could not spend their March transfers because of the operations take place under at the end of March, and claims will be submitted in mid-April, which is outside the Department of Transport financial year. And in certain cases, due to the Auditor General making negative findings for paying half of the claims, as the remainder is estimated to be deemed payable and not allowed by the PFMA. So this is at the top, the performance of the PTOG. If you go to the next slide. These some of the reasons for under expenditure with regards to the PTOG as stated there, mainly in Gauteng, the NTI contract in Gauteng also contributing to underspending, and also operations and contracts that were abandoned by PATCO and Brakpan Bus Services, which contributed to underspending again in the Gauteng province. If you go to the next slide. In terms of the public transport network grant, these are per municipality, Chair, and I'll just move quickly on the municipalities that are stated. In terms of the expenditure, transferred was over 273 million, and the expenditure was just over 95 million. Mainly due to the difference between the financial years of municipalities and our financial year that differ, and the actual outputs are stated there, Chair. I will not go through them, just I'll consider them as read to save time. The next slide. This is at the Nelson Mandela Bay. The next slide is Mangaung, 249 million transferred, over 74 million spent at the time of reporting, mainly due to the municipal sphere financial year running 3 months afterwards. Therefore, unspent funds were likely to be spent at the end of their financial year. So the actual output is stated there with regard to what has transpired in Mangaung for the period under review. Next slide. Next slide. Ekurhuleni has 702 million transferred, over 356 transferred. Same reasons as the previous two with regard to the underspending and the actual output in terms of annual revenue, passengers undertaken, and also the completion of the infrastructure as stated there on slide 29. That's 98. Next slide. Next slide, very quickly. In terms of the City of Joburg, over 1 billion transferred, 143 million spent, and the actual output is stated there, and the reasons for unspending will be almost identical to the previous that have been stated. Next slide. Next slide, Tshwane, 753 million transferred, over 349 million spent from the transfers, and the output is also stated there, Chair, with the necessary data for consideration by members. Next slide. eThekwini, 763 transferred, 242 spent as at the time of reporting, and the actual output stated in the slide with the reasons for deviation are identical to the previous slides. Next slide. Move to the next slide. Polokwane, 166 million transferred, spent, probably the CFO will talk to this one, 342 million. And these are the amounts that have been stated there with regard to the actual output that's there, and the unspent figures will be almost identical to the previous slides. CFO will confirm the amount transferred as it is lower than the amount that was spent in this regard. Next slide. Rustenburg, 338 million transferred, 150 spent, and the actual output is stated on the slide. I'll move quicker on these ones, Chair, not to just highlighting the amount that was transferred and spent, and the reasons for deviations will be the same. Next slide. If we move quicker, City of Cape Town, over 1.3 billion transferred, and just over 681 million spent, with the actual output stated there on the slide, and unspent funds were likely to be spent as at the end of their financial year, Chair. The next slide. George, 237 million transferred, 111 million spent as at the time of reporting, and the unspent fund were likely expenditure was likely to increase in the 3 months that remained before the end of the financial year of the municipality at local level. Next slide. Mbombela, there was a transfer of 148 million, and there was no expenditure. Mbombela is one of those cities that has been suspended from the program. Sunduzi and Buffalo City, they are receiving support from the National Department for readmission into the program, but mainly they were suspended due to unsatisfactory performance with regard to their infrastructure programs. If you go to the next slide. PRMG, you look at the opportunities, physical indicators on the left, number of kilometers paved in terms of the VCI conducted, 26,717, unpaved VCI, 46,791 conducted. In terms of the physical indicators, the upgrading, the rehabilitation, the resealing, the regraveling, and the patching, and also the social indicators in terms of work opportunities also stated. Next slide. This is in terms of the runs, what was transferred and what was spent, and the municipal spent an average of 43,000 of the funds that were transferred because of delayed procurement as well as implementation. It was also been noted that municipal year ends in June, and so at the time of our reporting, they had 3 more months to report and verify the information in this regard. The next slide. If we move quicker, Petunia. Governance indicators, I'll move quicker on this one. Let's move quicker. This is standard, Chair. The risk management committee held its meetings in April, July, October, and January 2023. And this is a standard based on what needs to happen in the department. This committee is formally appointed by the accounting officer, mainly to look at the risk that applies in terms of our strategic and operational issues in the department. The next slide. In terms of governance as well. Next slide, very quickly, Petunia. Fraud and corruption. These are some of the issues that are in our fraud and prevention plan. Fraud prevention, detection, investigation, and resolution. And we've set ourselves a target that all cases that are reported to us, we will seek to have resolutions on 95% of those from 2019. And this is the indicator that we're targeting in terms of fraud and corruption in the department. If you go to the next slide. If you go to the next slide, conflict of interest, obviously, we've got SBD forms. We also have a financial disclosure framework where all SMS and also MMS is requested to disclose their financial interest to the department, and all interests are also declared as part of the members of the bid evaluation and adjudication committees in the department. If you go to the next slide. The code of conduct as well, which serves as to employees as to what is expected of them from an ethical point of view, both in terms of their individual conduct and in their relations with others. And this compliance is expected to enhance professionalism and also ensure confidence in the public services. New appointees are also inducted in the code of conduct, and the SMS members are also trained on disciplinary matters related, which relates to violation of the code of conduct. The next slide. Prior modifications to audit issues, prolonged delays in the implementation of the disciplinary processes, which hampered the department from attaining a clean audit in the 21-22 financial year. This was the only material matter that was raised by the Auditor General. In terms of that, 9 cases of irregular expenditures currently at labor relations for disciplinary processes. 5 cases are with supply chain management to request condemnation with the National Treasury. 7 cases were with forensic investigations, with some of those 4 cases transferred to the Department of Higher Education to initiate disciplinary process. If we go to the next slide. In internal control, action plans were developed particularly with the deficiencies that were identified by the HSA in terms of the regularity audit, and those plans were being implemented in the department and tracked on a quarterly basis. Reports were then presented to EXCO and also the audit committee, and there's an audit steering committee and the loss control committee that sits at prescribed intervals. The internal control unit is also conducted compliance reviews, focusing on compliance to PFMA and also treasury regulation, and also the responsibility of maintaining and safekeeping of financial documents that ensures that requested financial documents by the AGSA are provided. So that these are the matters that are, in terms of governance, that are executed by internal control. Internal audit and the audit committee, these are the issues, highlights that they have done in the year under review. If you go to the next slide, these will be considered as read, chairperson. Next slide. These are some of the issues that were done through the internal audit and the audit committee. If you move again. move to the next slide. In terms of BE compliance, Chair, the department undertook a process of reporting on BE compliance for the 21-22 financial year as per the Section 13G, Section 1 of the BBE Act. The achieved level of for the financial year is level 3, and this is the table for the elements of the achievement. Management control achieved score is 7.88. Employment equity 20.23 against a weighting point, 21 weighting points. Skills development 17.75. That's the achieved score. Preferential procurement achieved score of 22.48, and enterprise development achieved a score of 15 against the weighting points of 15 as well. If you go to the next slide, human resources, that's the basic, the key stats as stated, Chair. The establishment consists of 890 posts, of which 677 were filled as at 31 March 2023. A total of 337 million in terms of compensation of employees was spent, which is 90.5% of the budget. 6 employees were additional to establishment as at the 31st of March. The vacancy rate as stated was 23.62. And the internal promotions as stated were covered in the previous slides. Next slide. Next slide. The turnover rate was also stated, but just to break it down, 35 employees resigned. 1 employee was lost due to death. There were 5 retirements, and were 10 for the period under review. If you go to the next slide. This is the employment equity status in terms of the males, females, in terms of the race. African males 40.77, African females 50.37, white males 10.89, white females 2.07, Indian males 0.44, Indian females 0.88, colored males 0.74, and colored females 0.74 in this regard. The next slide. In terms of the training interventions, we talked to these. In terms of the bursaries, we talked to these, and we're just showing the new bursaries issued per salary level as stated in slide 24. The next slide. Yeah, you can move to the next slide. The bursaries continued. Next slide. Next slide, please, Petunia. In terms of labor relations, in terms of misconduct and disciplinary hearings finalized, 2 written warnings, and there were also 2 final warnings that were issued, and the 2 cases were withdrawn in this regard. In terms of the grievances, 20 grievances were lodged, 16 grievances were resolved, and 4 grievances were not resolved as at the time of reporting. In terms of dispute, there was 1 dispute that was lodged, and no strike actions were undertaken. Then there was 1 person who was issued with a precautionary suspension for the period under review. Go to the next slide. This is a summary of the Auditor General's report. Very quickly, if the audit of financial statements, the CFO will talk to these as he gets to it. Next slide.
Mr. Ramanzi, why don't we give over to the CFO now?
Yeah, I can put it over to the CFO.
Will make sense, so that at least there is that convergence between
yes, Chair.
Part that you isolated to be dealt with him, and then also this aspect. Over to you, CFO.
Thanks, Chair, Honorable Chair, and Honorable GM, and honorable members and colleagues. In terms of the financial statement, let's start with the audit opinion. Go to back to the audit of financial statement so that we can. I know the members have read, but then
are you not going to go to the areas that were identified by Mr. Ramanti during the presentation to be interested to be covered by you?
Yes, the first one is he was trying to conclude on the audit report, which is part of the annual report, where in terms of financial statement, there were no material findings, and the Auditor General reported that the department have complied with the modified cash standard as well as the Public Finance Management Act in terms and the division of revenue in terms of the financial statement. And then the next slide is about the audit of annual performance report, where there were material findings in relation to the audit of performance information or predetermined of findings were identified that the annual report submitted for auditing of performance information, especially program 3, 4, and 7. Here, the misstatement was in relation to usefulness of the information and the misstatement of the reports. In terms of compliance, the audit established that the requirements of key legislation on selected for compliance testing are relevant in the financial and performance management of the department to allow consistent measurement and evaluation while sufficiently detailed, readily available to report it is in an understandable manner. The selected requirements are included in the annex of the auditor's report. In this case, there was no material non-compliance with the selected legislative matters. Other matters included in the annual report of the financial statement was in relation to the report of the SIU, which was conducted in relation to procurement of the triple PE for the
my humble apology. I suspect Ms. Lehapu, the one that is in charge of this slide movement, she will have to definitely gallop behind you. It looks like she's static now.
Yes, let's go to the overview of the DLCA quickly. Slide number 137, because we have done with the auditor's report, where we talk about the DLC operation, which is aimed at increasing its operational surplus year to year, with the current year surplus having doubled from the recorded in the previous year. This can be attributed to the increase in sales of driver license card and the strict cost containment measures which was adopted by the DLCA. During this financial year under review, the entity surrendered in excess funds of 175 million to the National Revenue Fund. If we go to slide 139, capacity constraint experienced by the entity, the card production machine was currently running at a rate of 38 batches per week, which have a 27 without any backlog, which produces approximately 94,000 cards. However, the ideal is for the entity to run at 45 batches per week, producing 111,000 cards. This cannot be achieved because of the legislative limitation on overtime, lack of skills and expertise to operate the machine. General understaffing across the entity, resignation of key personnel, and nature of the machine, which does not allow overruns in production due to lack of spare parts. Those are the highlights in relation to the DLCA. I'll pass quickly and just go to slide 146, where we are detailing the operations, which is car-related queries. 100% of all car-related queries were attended to. I see the slide there I don't see Petunia again, Chair, on the, maybe she's still reconnected. Yeah, she's back now. We want to go to, yeah, I'm still on slide 146, yes. In the meantime, I'll just proceed, Chair, for the interest of time. Enrollment of equipment maintained 98% of enrollment equipment was done in the current financial year. And then in terms of stakeholder management, 8 SLA were signed with provinces for the safeguarding of the DLCA assets which are in the provinces. Then I'll go quickly, Chairperson, to slide 149, where I'll talk to the manufacturing statistics, where you can see that the DLCA received 2.9 million orders, and it was produced 3.4 million, and it was able to deliver 3.3 million, and then the spoiled or cancelled card amount to 94,000. The next slide also deals with the quarterly information of the number of calls logged, number of calls resolved, number of calls resolved within 5 days, and a percentage of calls that were resolved within 5 days. In terms of governance for the DLCA, the audit committee was appointed in the year under review, and their term ended exactly when we were submitting the annual financial statement. Below is a summary and undertaking for the year. The new audit and risk committee to be appointed in October, and that is the highlight of the report of DLCA in terms of governance and internal control, Chairperson. And on that note, I want to move quickly to slide 157, where we will go straight to the financial information of the department, where I will deal with the overview of the financial result, and then deal with the statement of financial performance, statement of financial position, and then also touch on the transfers and subsidies. The next slide on the departmental revenue, Chair. You can see that in the current financial year, the department generated revenue of 204 million compared to last year of 51 million. And the reason here is because of the insurance recovery that the department received on the tender for the buying of vehicles. Then secondly, if we go to the next slide, where we are showing the financial expenditure per program. Chair and members, here you can see that our budget of 95 billion as the final appropriation indicated there, and the department was able to spend 94.5 billion with an underspending of 600 million. The underspending as indicated there, you can see per program, the most contributing programs in the current financial year was the road transport with 218 million, joined there by the public transport with 250 million. We'll give the breakdown and the reasons as per the next slide. Starting with administration. If you look at administration, the final appropriation there was 517 million, and the underspending of 44.6 million. And basically it was in relation to a compensation of employee, and basically this is due to vacant posts in that particular period. Further on that, there was underspending on goods and services, which include items such as capacity development and the track and trace project and the PPP for new accommodation for the department. If we go to the ITP branch, the final allocation of 93 million, and we're able to spend 78.5 million with an underspending of 14 million. Similarly here, the underspending is also on compensation of employee because of the vacancies that exist in that particular program. On goods and services, the number of projects have not yet commenced by the end of the financial year, such as the National Transport Planning Data Bank and the Corridor Freight Development. Other factors including that some of the projects the branch have undertaken to perform them in-house. And these are such as the route freight strategy, the district development model, and the national land transport strategy framework. And this contributed to the underspending. If we go to the rail transport, next slide. The allocation there is 20 billion, and they were able to spend 19.9 billion, and the underspending there is 40 million. And basically, it's also on vacant post, the underspending, and on goods and services is a project that is in relation to the Housing Development Agency as the emergency application to relocate informal dwellers have not been approved by the end of the reporting period, and it was supposed to be approved by the City of Cape Town. This is in relation to the, and also in relation to the Rail Economic Regulator project and the National Rail Master Plan, which began actually in the current financial year. Then if you go to the road transport, which I indicated that they are one of the major underspending branches, sitting at an underspending of 218 million. And this is in relation, of course, to the compensation of employees and largely on the transfers and subsidies. On goods and services is as a result of projects such as the Samba Sonke, the road transport legislative review, the development of road asset management tool, and the sustainable road implementation guideline, which were started after the period under review. Also mainly contributing to the underspending is the transfers which were supposed to be made to the entity called Artia. This is in relation to the administration and adjudication of road traffic offenses rollout, which was by then awaiting outcome of the court judgment. And furthermore, in this particular program, I want to highlight that 147,000 has been shifted from goods and services in order to augment excess expenditure on transfers and subsidy for payment of leave gratuity. Then if we proceed to the next branch, which is civil aviation, final allocation of 424 million, and then underspending of 10.7 million, and also is in relation to the vacancies that existed under the year under review, and then also on goods and services, because some of the projects, they were done in-house by the branch. Then we go to maritime with a final allocation of 158 million, and we're able to spend 147 million. The underspending there is 10.8 million, and is the reason for the underspending is also in relation to the compensation of employee, as well as projects such as maritime policy and legislation, and the Marine Court of Inquiry project, which has been deferred to the new financial year, as well as the automated vessel clearance project, which was still at the consultation stage. Then the next branch there is public transport with an allocation of 13.9 billion, and we're able to spend 13.7 billion. The underspending there is 250 million. And basically it also encompasses compensation of employees, and of course, as well as goods and services, and also some transfers. On the goods and services is the projects such as the capacity for public transport grant monitoring, the Shobagalula bicycle project, as well as the following projects which were done in-house. This were done in-house: the National Land Transport Information System upgrade and the National Land Transport Act amendment. And then furthermore, transfers were affected as a result of less funds spent on the taxi recapitalization program due to less intake of the scrapping by the taxis. And finally, the direct charge against the National Revenue Fund is in relation to the membership of the International Oil Pollution Committee, where there was an allocation of 12 million, but only 1.5 million was spent, indicating a saving of 10.4 million. And finally, if we go to the next slide on irregular, unauthorized, irregular, and fruitless expenditure. In the year under review, there were no irregular, unauthorized expenditure that was incurred. Go to slide 166. I'll come back to that slide. I just want to finish this one. In this schedule, it indicates that the department did not incur any unauthorized expenditure in the year under review, and it also did not incur any irregular expenditure in the year under review. However, on the fruitless and wasteful expenditure, it incurred 6,899. And these are in relation to 4 cases amounting to which were reported for the period under review. 2 cases have been transferred to debt for recovery, and 2 cases have been written off. So if we go back to the environment that the department have implemented, quickly, slide 164, you can see that the goods and services was reduced by a total amount of 5.8 million. This was basically done in order to augment the overspending by other branches on certain specific items, like there was spending on of 1.4 million on leave gratuities, and this is in relation to officials who go on retirement or who resign, and we have to cater for that from our transfers and subsidies, so we had to increase that allocation. Furthermore, there was overspending on capital, and this was in relation to procurement of laptops. We have to supply officials with a desktop and laptops, as most of the meetings are now held on virtual, and they have to upgrade. So those are the shifting that we have done in that particular year under review. Then the next statement is what we call the statement of financial performance on slide 167. And it's normally called the income statement. In that, you can see that the department, in terms of revenue, which is, of course, the budget allocated to the department, that the department was allocated and received 95 billion, and the department was only able to spend 94 billion, as I indicated in my report on the revenue and expenditure that the department have transacted in the previous financial year. The next statement is the statement of financial position, which shows that, which we call in normal language a balance sheet, where it shows you the assets for the department, how much the department is having in its coffers. That is slide number 169. Yeah, that is where it shows your current asset and your liabilities, which are sitting at those particular figures. This is the balance sheet of the department. And then we can go now to the transfers and subsidies, starting first of all with the PRMG allocated 12.6 billion, and all of it was transferred to the provinces. And also the public transport operation grant, 7 million allocated and also transferred, all of it. And the PTNG, 6 billion also transferred in totality, and the rural route asset management. In terms of PRASA, 19.8 billion was allocated and it was transferred. And all of the agencies, as you can see, Chair and members, that all the allocated amount was transferred, except for the RTIA amount of 165 million, which was not transferred because of the condition that were were put against that the transfer must only be used for the rollout of the ARTO. And as indicated in the previous slide, this could not be done because of the court judgment that prevented the entity in implementing the ARTO rollout. Then the last slide on the transfers is your taxi scraping, where there's an underspending of 98 million, which is basically because the taxi scraping is based on the demand from the taxi industry to submit their taxis for scraping. So it is demand driven, and also on bursaries of employees, it's underspent, especially allocation to students at the University of the North, Stellenbosch, Witwatersrand, where we're still awaiting the result before we finalize the payment. Also, I already explained the international oil pollution allocation, which was not spent as planned because the amount claimed by the international organization was lesser than what the department have. So basically, that is our annual report. Honorable Chair and members, thank you. I'll hand back to you.
Thank you, CFO, for that marathon presentation. And let's then open the floor to honorable members to engage at the level of the clarity seeking questions, input. I've seen the hand of Honorable Dango. Boshoff. Yeah, let's move in that fashion, and then Honorable Tim Prataseth, and then Honorable Khai. Let's move in that fashion. Honorable Dango, the floor is yours. Are we together, Ambassador? Ambassador has disappeared. Let's give over to Honorable Boshoff.
Thank you very much, Chair, and pardon me for not switching on my video. I just have a question with regard to the aviation section, more particular with the GA, the general aviation. I understand from the presentation that the fatal accidents have been reduced by 25% and that they are 9 under review. Could we be given an indication of who's under review and why they're under review? Because I sent in a question with regard to, I do not want to mention the name here, a certain flying school club in Cape Town, to which I haven't been given a response yet. So if the department could give me indication of who's under review and why they're under review. And then I would also like to know the 74 bursaries that have been issued to employees. What was the outcome of these bursaries, and what was the cost to the department on it? Because it's great giving out bursaries, but we need to get a report on the outcome of these bursaries that were paid out. Were the employees successful in finishing? And then the precautionary suspension, where do we stand, or where does the department stand with regard to that? And then the 8,000 bicycles that they were supposed to give out, and only 2,901 were given out. It's a great initiative, but could they increase giving them out? And then I'd like to know, with regard to these bicycles, how many are still in use, and who is responsible for the repairs to these bicycles? Because we know it's like a vehicle. At tire doesn't last forever. So these students or learners are given these bicycles, but who takes care of them? Because they are in dire situations. They do not have money to maintain and buy tubes and tires, etc., etc. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Bosho. Honorable Bratiseth.
Chairperson, thank
I'm
you.
back. I was kicked
Chairperson,
out.
just
Let me
on
apologize.
Okay, Ambassador, you noted you'll take the floor after Honorable Tim Bratiseth. Tim, the floor is yours.
thank you, Chairperson. I'm sorry, my bandwidth is low here. Chairperson, just one quick question. Well, two, in fact. Just the irregular expenditure. The report says on slide 25 that there is only one case of irregular expenditure, but then the corrective measures refers to 9 cases and 5 cases and then 7 cases. So it just seems a bit unusual. And also, can we just be given the amounts that are involved in this irregular expenditure? That would be very helpful. That's just the one question. And the other question is, Chairperson, I must represent my province. The R102 at Umkomaas, on the south coast of Natal, suffered damage in the April 2022 floods. And at the bridge site that crosses the Umkomazi River, there is a section of the road that is washed away. Work was started by, I believe it was by SANRAL, because SANRAL took over the assistance with provincial roads because of the actual arrangement at the time, because provincial roads didn't have the funds to handle the matter. But the R102, as of last week, still remains unrepaired. And there's one half of the road that is gone and cannot be used. And it's causing major arterial backlogs in that particular area and is having a huge impact on the tourism industry of Umkomaas, which has got one of the best scuba diving sites in the world. So if I could just get a response from the Department of Transport as to what they're doing to accelerate the repair of the road at the Umkomazi Bridge on the R102 right next to Umkomaas. Thank you very much.
Bratiseth, thank you for those questions. Honorable Dango.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, operating from Acacia Park is not always the best idea. It's got the worst connectivity. Chairperson, my question is the following. Underspending does not necessarily mean savings. Underspending actually means non-delivery. If you can get an explanation for that underspending, just broadly, what is the view on underspending? Because I saw in quite a few places there was underspending. Chairperson, then, like Honorable Bratiseth, I need to represent my province. I need to know what is happening with the rail line from Orange Farm through to Johannesburg. When is that going to happen, and when is that going to be completed? 2 is on the rail line from Randfontein to Johannesburg. Work is being done, but I see no security personnel on the railway stations. So I think we could just get them vandalized once again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador. Honorable Khaid.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning to you, honorable members, Deputy Minister, and the team from the OT. Firstly, Chair, I think the point that is raised by both Honorable Tim and Honorable Dango, perhaps in future when the department is preparing a report to present to the NCOP, there should be detail with regard to provinces. Yes, you know that we're a National Council of Provinces, so we're representing provinces. So want to know what is happening, the footprint of the department in its various programs. There are reflections in the provinces where we come from. All the 7 program, we need to know the footprint in detail as to what is happening in each of the provinces. Let me start, Chair, also with the issue of the spending or underspending in particular. On various programs, if you start with the administration, which is 44.7 million underspending, that relates to various operational items as well as projects that will commence in the new financial year. That is not clear, Chair. What do you mean when why you have in the APP a project for that particular financial year, but then you say those will start in another financial year? What's the point of having those then in the current year when you're not going to implement them? So perhaps that's the reason why now you find yourself in a situation where you have to now defer those to the next following year, and also you have a problem of underspending. The issue of capacity development, track and trace. So sometimes you just put these things that you underspend on this without putting the reasons why those projects were not realized, and also what were the consequence management. You know, this thing of consequence management, sometimes it's only implemented even because of the insistence of the AG as well, around the issue of irregular expenditure, fruitless and wasteful expenditure. It's only there that you find that departments are taking action against responsible employees, Chair. But when it comes to not meeting the performance indicators, you don't find. I'm sure the deputy minister should perhaps also comment on this one. You don't find that there are, especially at the senior level, those who are responsible for performance in various programs of the department get to be disciplined for poor performance, because we're not meeting the targets that you presented to Parliament, and also you underspend because you were not able to give us even reasons as to why you underperformed. Such issues as a triple P for office accommodation. It's not clear. It's just put there that you must understand that we have underspent on triple PE for office accommodation. No reason put. The document management solution, no detail as to why you underperform on that, and as a result, there's an underpayment, as well as other internal audit projects. No detail as to why those things have happened. We should just accept that the reason that the department around administration has underspent is because of those things, but there's no detail. It's similarly with other programs as well. There are laptop and desktop that are bought that were not planned. So we need a response why you buy something that is not part of the purchase plan, you know, of these various programs of the department. Also, I think this issue also would require the deputy minister to respond. This 23% of a vacancy rate. I mean, it doubled, more than double actually, the 10%, which is a threshold that was decided. I think that comes from the DPSA. Now 23. I don't even know what does that mean in terms of numbers, how many employees that would have been employed when we have so high unemployment rate. But I know they are indicating that at some stage they embark on a project to employ, but some of the reasons that are around the issue of the turnover resulting to death, resignation, retirement. But 23% is too high. Something needs to be done to fix that challenge. I'm still not clear on this one as well that was raised by Honorable Boshoff that talks about the non-employees. You understand on that, but I heard the CFO talking about that they've been waiting for results, and as such, they could not spend the money because the results did not. But in the annual report, the book, it talks about non-compliance. I don't know what that means, the non-compliance, and as a result, with regard to that program, there's an understanding. The next point, Chair, I want to find out. I just want to find out if this program called Vala Zonke program, is it being monitored? Perhaps this would have come clearly if we were to get details in terms of how this program is performing in each province. Our right, Chair, that perhaps we need to get this in writing, even after this meeting. Maybe you can, through you, give a department 7 days to provide us with a written report with regard to this project in all provinces of Vala Zonke. I raised it before, but I was making an example about my own street. But I don't want to be like I'm looking at my interest, though that street is not mine. Yeah, but it would be nice if we could get a written detail of what is happening in each province. With regard to some of the issues that were raised by the AG, the CFO has also touched on them. Just want to also make emphasis on those, because the AG talks about the issue of compliance with legislation on procurement and contract management. But I know the CFO focuses on the fact that these are not material. But be that as it may, it has led to the findings that the AG has made, even if they're not material in nature. The uncompetitive and unfair procurement processes. With regard to the road infrastructure and job creation, Chair, this is also where I would like that we be provided with a provincial breakdown with regard to that, so that the issues that the Honorable Tim was raising with a specific area that was affected by the disaster, we could be able to see it in that. I don't know what is the role of a department when it comes to the audit findings in the transport sector that taking place in the provinces. Was reading in the AG report that is reflecting on provincial department audit outcomes for the transport sector. It isolates Northwest, Eastern Cape, and KZN that they've been receiving a qualified audit opinion for the past or for the last 4 years. And it also identified the qualification areas. I just want to find out what is the role of the department in assisting to fix these issues that have been raised by the AG that relate to the transport sector as a whole, but in particular in the affected provinces. But another issue that the AG highlights, Chair, is with regard to the infrastructure for service delivery. Specifically, she picks up the one area as an example, the upgrade of R23. That's supposed to create 270 jobs or job opportunities in Standerton area. If the challenge is there, Chair, if I can just quickly raise what the AG says. Under what we found, failure to conduct proper needs assessment and feasibility study led to the delays in the completion of projects, delayed projects resulting in increased costs and financial losses. Contractors were paid for work not adhering to quality standards. Payments made to consultants are not aligned with the ECSA guidelines. Excessive variation made without prior approval. And she says the cause of that is a failure to conduct proper needs assessment and feasibility study, lack of accountability to implement action on non-performance of contractors and professional service providers, failure to adequately review project claims by project managers before approving payment. And the ripple effect of that is that project delays result in project overruns, putting pressure on fiscal, deterioration of roads used by motorists and citizens lead to road accidents. And then another one relates to the upgrading of the R08606 stake spread to Mlamli in the Eastern Cape. The expenditure incurred there was 11,967,184 on remedial work to finish the Aberdeen site. A gross quantity over measurement resulting in variation amount of 33,440,721. So those are the issues that the AG is making example of. So I would like to know what is it that the department is doing in terms of, because these monies are coming from the department. Chair, as I to conclude as well, with regard to the Rural Road Asset Management System grant, the report is telling us that there's an amount of 115,076,000. Of that amount, with the roads, I mean, the state of the roads in the rural areas appalling. But out of that amount of 115 million, according to the report that was presented here, is 49,380,657 out of 115 million. So it's not even half of that amount. So can we also be provided with breakdown in terms of the provinces and the district in a particular province, so that we can follow up these matters in each of our provinces as to why, when there's an allocation of 115 million. So even with this 49 that has been spent, if we could have a breakdown as to how much each province is spent on this 49 million. I note the point that is made there that the financial year of municipality ends in June. Be that it is May, that June has also passed because it was in 2023. So if we could get a breakdown around all these areas I've mentioned where we need more information on, whether you're talking about the PRMG and so forth. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Sorry for taking long.
Thank you, Honorable High. I see. I suspect that hand of Tim is it's a legacy hand. Let's give over to the department to respond because I believe that members have comprehensively covered a number of areas.
Chair, sorry.
Yes, Honorable Boshoff.
Just check the chat as well. Thank you. I've put something in the
Okay.
chat. Thank you.
Okay, let's do that right away. Could the department also give an update on R36 and 540 in Mpumalanga? These two roads are a death trap for users. That is the additional question. Let's then give over to the department. I guess the DM will wrap after the or maybe let's give over to the DM. DM will direct in terms of how the response will take place.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the honorable members, colleagues. I hope the CFO and Ndade Ramadzi will take where I respond and we will then close the gaps. Let me start with Honorable Boshoff. Thanks, Honorable Boshoff. Let me start with the last one you put on the chat. And it might affect also a couple of other roads. Once the road says it's an R, it denotes starting with an R, it means it's a provincial road. And the National Department of Transport, generally speaking, would not be responsible to that. However, you might have heard the minister on a couple of times imploring provinces to hand over or transfer to SANRAL roads that they feel are very critical for various reasons. Then those roads which could talk to the R23 in standard in that Honorable Khai spoke about. It's one of such roads. The point I'm making is that, Chairperson, if you would allow that the department responds to you in writing as to the specific status of those two roads as highlighted by Honorable Boshoff. On the issue of bicycles, the maintenance thereof, once more here, bicycles in the program we call Shovakalula are a complementary or subsidizing, or rather, supplementing, I think is the right word, not subsidizing. Okay, I'll respond to that comment, Honorable Boshoff. On the chat, on the bicycles, remember once more, it's part of the scholar transport program, which is handled by provinces. And as a way of assisting those gaps in terms of our criteria of saying kids that are walking minimum 3 kilometers to school one way, those are the kids that would identify. So once we hand over these bicycles, we encourage particularly SGBs within what they have to make sure that parents are able to be assisted in terms of maintaining those bicycles, where there could be people around schools who can start their own little businesses to be able to maintain issues like tire punctures and so forth. So the Department of Transport doesn't get involved at that level, but we encourage provinces and schools themselves to take up that. We have, however, honorable members, decided that we need to go back. That would answer the next question of Honorable Boshoff as to how many are still in use, what is their condition. it is part of our plans that we need to go back to the schools. We might not do all of them, but do a sample that can give us a fair indication, are still in use, what is their condition, so that we can be able to answer the question directly as to whether there is value for money or producing this. We must say, however, on a couple of provinces, we have got feedback from education to say they have seen an increased or an improved attendance rate by kids. They come to school quite early. They are more attentive than others. But we would want to do quite a convincing sample survey of what exactly happens to those. Yes, we are certainly intending to roll out more, just that the figures are not there. We have been rolling out quite a couple. Honorable Boshoff will appreciate that in Mpumalanga, only in the last week, between the minister and myself, we handed over in Nkangala district and in Gerbsbande, where I was, about 1,500 bicycles. That's just an example, only last week. So certainly we do intend rolling out more, but we need to close the gap so that we are very specific in terms of answering these types of questions. I will leave the questions that are two for the either Ramasi or whoever is there, the issue of general aviation review and the issues of bursaries, what has been their outcome. I will skip that one. But lastly, on Honorable Boshoff, yes, she says on the chat that she knows the province is not doing it. Honorable members, we must remember, I think you yourselves being representatives of provinces will know it more than many of us do, that this function is a concurrent function. The provinces are responsible to maintain what is theirs. And it doesn't solve our long-term problem in terms of always taking over from province. But what we want to do now is to come in and see how do we support provinces to close the gaps where these provinces have got a lack of a particular skill. Might be financial, might be program management, whatever the case may be, to come in there, because we are seeing more and more such cries, Honorable Boshoff, where people are frustrated to say, but the province is not doing anything, but the municipality. But your point is taken, Honorable Boshoff. And on those two specific roads, Honorable Chair, I would want us to come back with a more specific response to those two roads. On Honorable Tim Breidesech there, good to see you online. We had a good time in the oversight of floods. You reminded me when you went to the Mkomazi Road. On the slide that talks about irregular expenditure, he says it talks about one case. I couldn't find that slide. I could have missed it, but I'm sure the CFO would have picked it up, other than what is in slide 166. And in slide 166, and if I'm mistaken, I'm subject to correction. I was trying to browse through them very quickly. In slide 166, where Honorable Tim is particularly mentioning the example that he makes, it talks about unauthorized expenditure, that there's been no unauthorized expenditure. Then further down, it talks about 4 cases of wasteful, fruitless and wasteful expenditure, which are 2 different things, if I'm correct. But if the CFO has got a different understanding, I'm sure he will augment my response there so that Honorable Tim is satisfied with that response. On the R102 Mkomazi, can I also request that one, Honorable Chair, that we also get proper response in the guideline you'll give us, so that we don't just say we think what is happening there. On Honorable Dango, the issue of the lines that are not operational yet, once more, I always, how do I put this, Ambassador? Because remember, as we come to present 2022, 2023, it's a year that was, it has passed. So this particular information offhand now might not assist you. So unless Ramatsi or there's somebody from Rail here, I can't see everybody who's here from the department can answer that. I would also request through you, Chair, that maybe that also gets specific response so that we don't give you a thumbs up. On Honorable Khai's questions, I will say the following, and the CFO, I will ask him to deal with all the underspending. It was on the APP, but not spent, because I think what is being explained there is mitigating factors. But between him and Ndate Ramatsi, I'm sure they'll be able to respond to that. As to the structure of the presentation to deal per province, again, I'll ask Ramatsi to answer that one, because it might be that we have a particular template that would be prescribed as to how to present our annual report. However, the question is very valid, because members in the NCOP, particularly unlike the portfolio committee in the NA, might want to have specific responses to their particular provinces, which I highly respect. The DDG for Rail, Ndate Makaipia, will answer the issue of rail, particularly in Gauteng. He is in the meeting. Thank you very much. Operation Valazonke, is it being monitored? What is happening? Operation Valazonke is being monitored. There is an operation war room, call center, whatever name you want to call it, that is hosted by Sandral at the Central Command Center in Midrand. And how does it operate? It really operates by saying people must report, these are captured, these are sent to the respective municipalities or provinces for them to respond to those, or Sandral, whatever the case may be. Now, the reality of the matter is that Sandral or DOT doesn't have a team of field workers or maintenance workers who go out physically and go there. However, this is a coordinated effort to make sure that we monitor, we follow up, and make sure that these potholes are closed. In the case of Honorable Khai's example, is that he is strict where he is, which I fortunately know. The municipality there will still be responsible for that to repair. But Operation Valazonke says, let us pull our resources together. Let us assist one another to do this. So yes, it is being monitored. And should the members so wish, we could, if the chair so wishes and the members, you decide, bring Sandral to be able to present what has happened so far. How does the app work? Where are the challenges in this regard? Does the DOT assist provinces to deal with issues of negative audit outcomes? Again, honorable members, it goes back to what I said, that this is a concurrent function. Provinces have got responsibilities themselves. They have to take care of audit findings that come out negative in their space, as much as they would want to take the glory when the audit outcomes are positive. So directly the answer is no. We do not supervise the provinces in terms of how are they responding to their audit outcomes. To the extent to which it affects the DOT's audit outcome, we might take keen interest to understand as to what they are doing to close the gap. For instance, if you find that particular grants are not being spent and they are producing a negative, we would come in. The example was cited earlier in the IPTN, where the DOT together with Treasury decided to suspend certain municipalities because of reasons that were stated to 3 of them because of not spending. So that grant money is done through DOT. It has got some implications which might not directly at the time lead to an audit outcome. So the direct answer would be no. We do not supervise them. What are you doing about your audit outcomes? However, at the level of MINMEC, should a need arise, the minister would obviously make a determination to put it up to her colleagues, MECs, at the level of MINMEC to say we are concerned, but provinces have got their own issues to deal with. In transport specifically, it's a concurrent function, and they are accountable to their own legislature, and they are also accountable to their own processes within their provinces. And the cases of the roads that Honorable Khai mentions, R23 Standerton area has since been opened, and I think that road is one road that the minister launched just less than a month ago. I would think those audit comments, AG, would have been at the time been addressed. However, the Expropriation area one, that I know there were examples, but again, these, unless one knows exactly the specifics, what are those roads, one can be able to give a proper answer. But the R23, as I said, I'm fully aware that it is something that the minister launched or opened that road, which has been rehabilitated in less than a month ago. Chairperson, that is what I wanted to respond to yourselves, and with those areas that I didn't touch to, through you, I would kindly request maybe we start with the DDG Rail to respond to Honorable Dango's inquiry, and to ask Ndate Ramatsi to touch on those general aviation and bursaries issues, and that the CFO, through you once more, touches on the financial ones that have been raised, I think, by almost all members that asked the questions. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I submit.
Thank you, DM. I want to propose a different approach, DM, given the extent and the degree to which we have comprehensively given an overview in terms of the responses that we gave to the questions that were posed by members. I'm looking at the time. I'm going to propose that those management team leaders that you have identified, they give those answers comprehensively in writing. So that we are then able to give members just a comfort break of 5 minutes, because there's another meeting that we're starting at 12. But in addition to that, there are a number of reports that were referred to during the presentation by your team leaders, whether it is from the Transnet Post Authority, the annual report that was the annual report on the state that was prepared. The number of them, I think, even under the Operation Pakisa, under the Maritime Safety, those reports we will appreciate if the team can share them with the select committee, so that we are then also able to have also an oversight over what does it entails, because then it sort of gives a meat to the bone, because when you say that an analysis report has been prepared, but it is not shared with us, it sort of leaves a gap. But other than that, I think the other last point that I thought we might also need to get just an update on is on the predetermined, the progress that we have made in relation to the finding that was made by the AG on the predetermined objective, the performance information. Like as you have said, this report definitely is overtaken by events, and therefore there will be tremendous progress that you might have, that the department might have made in relation to progress around the reliability, the credibility of the performance information. So we'll appreciate if you could just get a sense in terms of the last 2 to 3 quarters, what progress has been made in relation to that. But other than that, I want to take this opportunity, DM, and your team to express a word of gratitude to yourselves and the team that we led in terms of this comprehensive presentation that we have made, because it gives us a glimpse in terms of the oversight that the department is exercising over not only just the provincial department, but also the entities that report directly to the department. Because like I indicated when we started, even the fact that we are exercising oversight over 4 departments, it becomes difficult to deal with quarterly reports, and therefore in this presentation we have a sense in terms of where we are going, where are we registering progress in relation to our performance indicators. And on that note, I must definitely on behalf of the select committee express a word of gratitude to all of you and wish you a wonderful afternoon and your team, as we just take a comfort break so that we are then able to ensure that members are fresh when they start another meeting. Thank you, DM. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, honorable members. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, can we just take a 5 minutes comfort break? Thank you. Are you ready, Committee Secretary?
Chairperson?
Are you ready for us now?
Yes, Chairperson, we are ready.
Oh, brilliant. Can you just flag flag the agenda for this session? In terms
Enrico?
of the in terms of the agenda, we'll be dealing with the final mandate of the expropriation bill, B2 3B 2020. So we just need to check as to whether all members back. Just help us there, Hlupeka.
Thank you, Chair. I see yourself in the platform, Honorable Boshoff, Honorable Khai, Honorable Mama Rekhane, Honorable Mushodi, Honorable Dango,
Okay.
Honorable Bratathes.
Okay, brilliant.
Those are the
Then I
members
think
that are in the platform.
that's great. Then like I indicated, let me hand over to you just to give a reflection in terms of mandates that you have received.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good day, honorable members and colleagues. Mandates that we've received so far, Chairperson, we've received 8 mandates. It's only Northwest that didn't submit their mandate. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Then in that situation, I think members will understand that previously there was a challenge in relation to the production and the typesetting work by the service provider, but ultimately that hurdle we were able to overcome it, and as a result thereof, we were then able to produce the bill that we're then able to then share with the provinces. They really work over time to make sure that the work of the select committee, given the challenges that the management and administration experienced, were able to meet the target. So now, having said that, then let's then start with the Eastern Cape.
Chairperson,
Yes, Tim.
Chairperson, if I may, I've just got some comments to make before we proceed.
Yeah, let's do that, Tim.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, my comments relate to the process this morning. First of all, Chairperson, I just want to indicate my great concern that all of these mandates came through to us only this morning. In fact, most of the mandates came through while we were sitting in our meeting with the Department of Transport, which means that, Chairperson, we haven't had a chance to evaluate these mandates. Now, Chairperson, as you know me, I always do my homework, and I obviously have been engaging with my member of provincial legislature colleagues around the country, and I've got severe concerns relating to some of the mandates received. In specifics, Chairperson, I'm aware that Chairperson, in fact, if I can just first go to the mandating procedures.
Tim,
Yeah.
why don't you do this? Let's allow members to present, and then after that, because then you'll be usurping the powers that doesn't belong to you, because you'll be acting more like a shop steward for all the provincial legislatures. Let us allow the permanent
Chairperson,
delegates. Let us
if
allow
I
the
may.
permanent delegates to present their mandates, then thereafter we'll then allow you to that space to make that reflection. If you can just allow us to present our provincial legislature's mandate, then thereafter we'll then allow you to do that. You will definitely
Right,
get an
Chairperson.
opportunity to do that, but we want you to do that after we have got the mandate, final mandate from our provinces. Thank
Right,
you.
Chairperson, I will abide by your ruling, but I just want to bring into question some of the mandates, and that's why if I
Yes,
can
no,
have an
no,
opportunity
that's
after that.
definitely.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Tim. Honorable Khai.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. In terms of the mandate, I did receive it not only today, some time ago, and then the PLO again sent it to me last night. The mandate from the Eastern Cape Provincial Legislature, from the Office of the Speaker, which is a final mandate, it's addressed to the Chairperson, National Council of Provinces. The name of the bill, Expropriation Bill. The number of the bill is B23D-2020. Date of deliberation was on the 7th of March, 2024. The vote of the legislature, the province votes in favor of the bill and mandates the Eastern Cape Permanent Delegate to the National Council of Provinces to vote in favor of this bill. Regards, Honorable Helen Sauls-August, MPL, Speaker of the Eastern Cape Provincial Legislature. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Khai. Let's go to Free State. Honorable Mshori.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Good afternoon. Free State Legislature final voting mandate to the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces. Name of the bill, Expropriation Bill, number of the bill, B23D-2020, date of deliberation, the 13th of March 2024, vote of the legislature. The Free State Legislature vote in favor of the bill signed by the Speaker of the Legislature, Honorable N.B. Sifuba, on the 13th March 2024. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mshori. Honorable Dango.
Chairperson, yes, thank you very much. Gauteng Legislature, Office of the Speaker, final voting mandate. To the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, the Honorable A. Masondo. Name of the bill, the Expropriation Bill, number of the bill, B23D-2020, date of deliberation 11th of March 2024, vote of the legislature. The Gauteng legislature supports the principle and the detail of the bill and therefore votes in favor of the bill. Expropriation Bill, the Honorable Antombi Mekwe, Speaker, Gauteng Provincial Legislature, 11th of March 2024. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Dango. Honorable Tim, on behalf of KwaZulu-Natal.
The Chairperson, the final mandate reads as follows. To the Chairperson of the NCOP, name of the bill, Expropriation Bill, number of the bill, B23D, hyphen 2020, date of deliberation, Tuesday, 12 March 2024. Vote of the legislature. The KwaZulu-Natal legislature met today, Tuesday, the 12th of March 2024, and agreed to mandate the KwaZulu-Natal delegation to the National Council of Provinces to support the Expropriation Bill. Signed off by Honorable N.N. Boyce, Speaker of the House.
Thank you, Honorable Tim Bratterson. Limpopo. Honorable Maragani. Honorable Mamarakani? Committee Secretary?
Thank you, Chairperson.
Is Honorable Mamarakani not on the platform?
She's in the platform, but I don't know
Okay.
what. She's in the
Yeah, can you
platform.
read? Can you read?
Chairperson,
Still on her comfort break.
Yeah, I suspect.
Chairperson,
Yes.
you can read because
Okay. To the
procedurally you can
chairperson,
read.
yeah, to the chairperson of the National Council of Province, the name of the bill, expropriation bill, number of the bill B23D 2020, the date of deliberation 12 March 2024, a vote of the legislature of Limpopo, the province vote in favor of the bill, signed by Speaker Honorable R.R. Molapo, Speaker of Limpopo Legislature on the 12th of March 2024. Thank you. Mpumalanga, Honorable Boshoff.
Can they please flight it? Chair?
Kubeka, can you fly to the mandate of Mpumalanga?
Andreko?
If they can just move it up so I can read everything. To the chairperson of the NCOP, Honorable N.A. Masondo, name of the bill, Expropriation Bill, number of the bill, B23D/2020, date of deliberation 12 March 2024. Vote of the legislature, the delegation representing the province of Mpumalanga in the National Council of Provinces is hereby conferred with a mandate to vote in favor of the bill, and it is duly signed by the Speaker of the Mpumalanga Legislature, dated 12 March 2024 by MC Masalela. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Boshoff. Northern Cape, let me just Northern Cape mandate. The name of the bill is Expropriation Bill. The name of the bill B23D 2020. The date of the deliberations 2024 12 March. Vote of the legislature of Northern Cape. The legislature support the expropriation bill B23D 2020. Signed by Honorable Nurin Klasde, the Speaker of the Northern Cape. Thank you. You said what Northwest, what is the situation, Committee Secretary?
Thank you, Chairperson. Northwest Chairperson, they did not submit their mandate, but the undertaking that they have provided or given us is that they will submit the voting mandate in the House.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Western Cape. Honorable Yakulon.
Chair?
Yes.
Chair, if I remember correctly, Honorable Lon submitted an apology. That's what he told us yesterday.
All right. Let me then read the Western Cape mandate. To Honorable Amos Masondo, the chair, the name of the bill is Expropriation Bill B23D of 2020. The date of the deliberation is 13 March 2024. The vote of the legislature, the Standing Committee on Infrastructure having considered the subject of the expropriation bill B23D 2020 NCOP referred to the committee in terms of Standing Rule 217, recommends that the House confers on the Western Cape's delegation in the Northern Cape the authority not to support the bill. Thank you, honorable members. That's the mandate signed by the Speaker of the Western Cape Legislature. Can you give us the numbers, Committee Secretary?
Thank you, Chairperson. The numbers are as follows. One province did not submit the mandate. One province also did not support the bill. 7 provinces are in support of the bill. Thank you, Chairperson. And which allows us to proceed to the next process, Chairperson, of the report.
So at what time will Advocate Phumelele get in? After the report, when he does the report, if there is a need?
Yes, Chairperson, I think she can respond herself.
Yeah, let's give over first to Honorable Tim. Honorable Marhan has a problem. She can't unmute, but she said I will put her on the speaker when we deal with the report. Honorable Tim.
Chairperson, thanks for the opportunity. Chairperson, if I can just start with the provisions of the Mandating Procedures of Provinces Act 2008, and specifically Chapter 2, under the heading Requirements in respect of final mandate, and subsection B. The final mandate must indicate whether the provincial legislature votes in favour of or against or abstains from voting on the bill. Now, Chairperson, the information I have to hand from our MPL colleagues in the Eastern Cape, in Gauteng, Limpopo, and the Western Cape is that none of those provinces actually put the final mandate in the bill, their committee report, their final mandate committee report in front of their legislatures, which in actual fact calls into question whether or not those final mandates are in fact the final mandates, which we have just read out. And so, Chairperson, I just think that the committee should pause and consider whether or not there are Chairperson, there are 4 mandates that have been presented us to today which are questionable. They may well be later ratified, but the Act is quite clear that there must be a vote in the provincial legislature. It says the provincial legislature votes in favour or against or abstains from voting on the bill. It does not mean that a committee, which is the case in all 4 of these instances, may present a final mandate as if it comes from the provincial legislature. The provincial legislature must actually go through the process, as the other 5 did. Northwest has actually done their final mandate, they just haven't submitted it. They've all taken it through the legislature, but those four that I've referred to, Eastern Cape, Gauteng, Limpopo, and Western Cape, have not actually taken it through the legislature. And I'm concerned, Chairperson, that we will be outside of procedure and that the stakeholders who are observing this process could attack the passing of the bill in the NCOP simply on that basis. And Chairperson, I just want to state one other thing, is that no rules of any house can ever override legislation. And if there is a difference in that, can I please ask that the committee gets a legal opinion on whether or not the rules of a house can override legislation? Because I would find that to be quite an anathema to our legislative setup in South Africa. That's just the point I wanted to make, Chairperson. And in that regard, the DA, and I do speak for my other colleagues on this call, will not be supporting the report based on the issues that I've raised. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I see Honorable Boshoff.
Yes, please, Chair. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I wish to support what my colleague, Honorable Braateseth, has said. If this does go through, I also cannot support it. And if this committee decides once again to go through, we are creating a precedent that could come back to bite us. So please note my objection as well. And as Honorable Braateseth said, Honorable Lawrence as well, to be noted. Thank you.
Honorable Khai?
Thank you very much, Chair. Shall we operate here on the basis of provinces, not as individual political parties? This is a Section 76 bill. We are given mandates. First, we are given negotiating mandates by provinces. We don't inquire, they state in their reports of the negotiating mandate, the processes that they followed. And then we focus on those, and then we develop a position that we send to them for final mandates. That has been done. We don't inquire going out to all the provinces and ask whether this has happened or that has happened. We just, usually this is the first time, Chair, that this is happening, where a member will go around searching because he or she is opposed to a particular bill and therefore want to find any procedural wrong that has taken place and use that to block the passing of so even this should not be allowed. This is what is happening now. Members, if they have a declaration through their provinces, if allowed by their provinces, they can make declaration in the House. The majority of the provinces are voting in favor of the bill. They can then go and make declaration as part of their provinces if they are allowed by provinces. But if they want to challenge it legally, they can do so. So this is a waste of time now. The committee has done its part of considering the final mandates from the provinces. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Khai, and Honorable Boshoff, and also Honorable Tim for the input. Like as the committee secretary has indicated, honorable members, we have a majority of provinces expressing their support for the bill. What we'll then do now, we'll then give over to the committee secretary to present the committee report to the committee. Committee secretary.
Thank you, Chairperson. Before I present the report, Chairperson, I just want to first, quote the rule in relation to quorum and decisions. It's Rule 114 of the NCOP rules. It reads as follows. A committee may proceed with the business irrespective of the number of delegates present, but when a question is to be decided, delegates at least representing at least 5 provinces must be present. A question is decided by a supporting vote of at least 5 provinces. I just want the chairperson at least to put that rule forward. Chairperson and members, this is the report. The report reads as follows. A report of the Select Committee on Transport, Public Service and Administration, Public Works and Infrastructure on Expropriation Bill B23B 2020, National Assembly, Section 76, date 13 March 2024. Introduction. 1.1. The object of the bill 23B 2020, National Assembly, Section 76, the bill are to provide for the expropriation of property for public purpose or in the public interest, to regulate the procedure for the expropriation of property for a public purpose or the public interest, including payment of compensation, to identify certain instances where the provision of nil compensation may be just and equitable for expropriation in public interest, to repeal the Expropriation Act 1975, Act number 63 of 1975, and to provide for matters connected therewith. The bill was passed by the 1.2, the bill was passed by the National Assembly, transmitted to the National Council of Provinces for the concurrence and referred to the Select Committee on Transport, Public Service and Administration, Public Works and Infrastructure, in brackets, the Select Committee, on 28 September 2022. 2, Select Committee process followed in respect of the bill. 2.1, on 5 February 2023, an advert was placed on the national media calling for written submission on the bill with the deadline of 6 March 2023 for the receipt of submissions. 2.2, at the request of the Select Committee, a team from the University of Cape Town Law Faculty, led by Professor Henry Mostert, prepared and conducted a workshop on concept-related expropriation with the Select Committee on 22 February 2023. The same day, counsel to the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure Advocate Uday Naidu briefed the Select Committee on the bill. 2.3, the Select Committee had oral submission on the bill on 27 September 2023 and 11 October 2023. Counsel to the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure Advocate Uday Naidu on 25 October 2023 briefed the Select Committee on the department's response to the written and oral submission received on the bill. 2.4. On November 2023, the Select Committee considered negotiating mandate on the bill as received from the provinces. I'm not going to go through the negotiating mandate. I can request Enrico just to flag. Those are the provinces and how the provinces voted. Let's go down. 2.5. The committee considered the C list of agreed amendments to the bill on 6 December 2023 and 7 February 2024. 2.6. 8 provinces submitted final mandates on the bill, which were considered on 13 March 2024. The final mandate was submitted as follows. Eastern Cape, the province vote in favor of the bill and mandates the Eastern Cape permanent delegate to the NCOP to vote in favor of the bill. Free State, the Free State legislature votes in favor of the bill. Gauteng, the Gauteng provincial legislature support the bill, supports the principle and detail of the bill and therefore vote in favor of the expropriation bill. KwaZulu-Natal legislature agreed to mandate the KwaZulu-Natal and the KwaZulu-Natal legislature agreed to mandate the KwaZulu-Natal delegation on the National Council of Provinces to support expropriation bill B23D 2020. Limpopo, the province vote in favor of the bill. Mpumalanga, the delegation representing the province of Mpumalanga in the National Council of Provinces is hereby conferred with the mandate to vote in favor of the bill. Northern Cape, the legislature supports the expropriation bill B23D 2020. Northwest, yes to be submitted. Western Cape, the Standing Committee on Infrastructure, having considered the subject of the expropriation bill B23D 2020 and COP, referred to the committee in terms of the Standing Rule 217, recommends that House comfort the Western Cape's delegation in the NCOP the authority to not support the bill. 2.7, the Select Committee agreed to make provision for the Northwest final mandate on the bill to be included in the report should such final mandate be submitted before the report is adopted in the House. 3, outcome of the Select Committee's consideration of the bill. The Select Committee on Transport, Public Service and Administration, Public Works and Infrastructure, having deliberated and considered the subject of the expropriation bill, B23, B2020, National Assembly, Section 76, the bill, referred to it and classified by JTM as Section 76, reports that it has agreed and amended the bill 23D 2020, a report to be considered. Chairperson, this is the report. I might go back to the rules in terms of what needs to happen now, Chairperson. For this report to go through, Chairperson, it needs to be supported by 5 provinces. So, Chairperson, I'll give back to you. Chairperson? The chairperson is in the platform. May I call him? Honorable members, I just get hold of the chairperson. He was just disconnected. He's logging in. We can wait for him. Chairperson?
I got disconnected. My humble and sincere apology for that technical glitch. Honorable Boshoff and Honorable Brataseth, can you lower your hands? Because we want to put the report to the House, to the committee. Honorable members, those members that support the bill, can they indicate that by a show of hands? We'll also accommodate Honorable Mamarkhani because she has a technical glitch. She can't operate she can't operate her hand. I mean her gadget. Honorable Mamarkhani, can you indicate? We'll just allow her. Honorable Mamarkhani?
Chair?
Yes, Honorable Mamarkhani?
No, this is Boshoff.
Yes.
As a point of clarity, we really need to know whether Honorable Marachani is actually on the platform or is she just being
Honorable Marachani?
used? Yeah.
Yes, can you indicate whether you support the report?
Limpopo support the report.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Marachani. You are on the platform.
Yes, I am.
Yes.
Can you press the icon?
Can you hear that, Honorable Boshoff?
I am on the platform.
Yes.
That's all I needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now I'm going to IT people to fix my phone. I don't know what there's something wrong with it.
Thank you, Honorable Marachani.
Just to update it, yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Committee Secretary.
Thank you, Chairperson. The 5 members or 5 provinces supported the members and the province is Honorable Moshodi Free State, Honorable Memang, Northern Cape, Honorable Khai, Eastern Cape, and Honorable Dango, Gauteng, and Honorable Mamarachani Limpopo.
Thank you, Honorable. Thank you, Committee Secretary, for that report. Members, can you lower your hands? Can we then have those that are voting against the report, adoption of the report, indicating that? Committee Secretary?
I'm checking the platform here. Chairperson, I see 2 hands. Honorable Brotakas, KwaZulu-Natal, and Honorable Boshoff, Mpumalanga.
Thank you, Committee Secretary, for noting those objections to the adoption of the report. Members of the committee, Honorable Select Committee members, the report is supported by 5 provinces, which is Free State, Gauteng, Eastern Cape, Limpopo, and Northern Cape, and it is voted against by Honorable Tim and Prataseth, and also Honorable Boshoff. Anyone that is abstaining? None. So therefore, the report is duly adopted by the Select Committee on Transport, Public Service, Public Works and Infrastructure, and Evaluation and Monitoring. Will recommend the report to the House for adoption. Therefore, we will now move to the next item on the agenda, the minutes of the previous meeting. Enrico? Honorable members, we are now dealing with the minutes of the 6th of March, 2024, where we received the presentation from the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation on the 10-year review. Those are the attendees of the members that attended. So the apologies also that is recorded. And then the guests that were in attendance, led by the Commissioner, Dr. Ramatsetse, and then our support staff from Parliament. And then that was the reflection that we made, open remarks that we made. And then the presentation by Dr. Ramatsetse. A background was given, the highlights, the mandate, the targets, the review findings, and then the rationale for the 10-year review, and then those findings, whether from economic, whether from social, whether from governance, and then the comments by members. Any correction that members would want to make in relation to the minutes of last week? In the absence of any minutes, can we have a mover for the adoption of the minutes of the previous meeting?
Thank you very
I
much,
so move,
Honorable
Chairperson.
Chairperson. Honorable Musodi move for adoption of the minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Shodi, for moving, and then seconded by Honorable Khai and Honorable Dango. The minutes are duly adopted. So, are there any other business for the day, Committee Secretary?
Chairperson, we are done with the business of the day.
Let me then take this opportunity to indeed extend a word of gratitude to all of you from the parliamentary staff, the legal advisor, Advocate Van Breda, and also Mephumelela Ngema, for all the support that he gave throughout this bill. It has been a marathon, but more than that, a lot of effort was put in place to ensure that this expropriation bill is taken through all the rightful processes, both at the level of the select committee, the briefing that we received, the briefing that we gave to the provinces, the interaction that we had at the level of the presentations, both in terms of written and oral representation. But more than that, the engagement that we had, the responses, the department, the legal office of parliament, you all came in hand in terms of ensuring that if there is any other aspect that needed to be clarified, that needed to be worked on, is done. Of course, we had an unfortunate situation where at the level of the administration, something beyond the ambit of this committee impacted on our work, because just in terms of typesetting and production of the D-bill, it came to a point where as the chair of the select committee, it became unbearable to me, because we don't deal with supply chain management procedures. So therefore, it's something that has to be taken good care of by the leadership of the institution, so that our processes must not be impacted by issues around project management and contract management. But be that as it may, we want to take this opportunity to also express a word of gratitude to our provinces for the good work that they put in terms of ensuring that they do the necessary work that has to be done. Of course, we are mindful of what Honorable Boshoff and Honorable Tim Bratters have raised. I suspect they will have to take these issues with their respective speakers, so that there is no confusion in terms of rules, because we are all mandated by our provincial legislatures. And if there's an issue with your provincial mandate, interact with your speaker so that there is much more clarity, to avoid confusion, but also to avoid blurring of issues, which has the potential to impact on how we operate, because we are here as permanent delegates mandated by our provincial legislatures, and there are rules that governs our work at the level of select committees, but also at the level of the House. So therefore, it might be important for honorable members to interact with the Speaker of KwaZulu-Natal and also the Speaker of Mpumalanga, because I believe that it's a matter if they have the view that it needs serious attention, that's where they must report to. But be that as it may, honorable members, let me take this opportunity to express a word of gratitude to even the committee support staff. It was a bit burdensome on them because I had to keep them on their toes when I could not get the production and the typesetting. They know quite well I was very vocal, but also our public for supporting this expropriation bill, but also the media for ensuring that this bill is at the center of engagement by our members. And let's then take this opportunity to formally adjourn this meeting. And because we have a house sitting, just to give members ample opportunity just to refresh, the meeting is now adjourned. Bye, members.
Bye.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.